I'll tell this one. This is kind of a faith-promoting story. Uh, J.W. Nixon the first had quite a large family, and one of them was one of them was named Amelia Adelia, but she went by Delia, and she married quite young to a Joseph Hutchinson. And I have a picture. I should go and get the album. But I was trying to chase her descendants. She was, I hate to say this, especially on camera, but she had her problems. I'll just say it that way. She had her problems. She was married about 4 times. And, but she only had one daughter. Her name was Juanita. And I traced Juanita to 1930 on the census record, and then I lost her. And I just didn't know what happened to her. And so I asked Aunt Grace. I said, Aunt Grace, do you remember Juanita? Oh yeah, she says. She says she was living in Salt Lake, and she married a man who was in the restaurant business, and then went to California. Well, I still was at a dead wall. So finally, Aunt Grace was. It turns out that I became very close to Aunt Grace and came to love her very dearly because after Uncle DeVerl died, they asked Richard and I to be the executors of her estate. And so for 10 years, I was very close to her. So at the end of her life, I said to Aunt Grace, I said, Aunt Grace, I said, when you get on the other side, would you please find Levon for me? Who is Juanita's daughter. Juanita only had one daughter, Levon. So Aunt Grace died. And Richard and I were called. Richard was called in 1996 to be president of the California Sacramento Mission. He was a little disappointed. I shouldn't maybe put that on camera, but he really wanted to go to New Zealand, where he could have lamb every day. But we went to California, Sacramento Mission, and in January of 1997, we were at a zone conference in Stockton, California. And I had a missionary come up to me and say, what do you know about Delia Nixon? And I said to him, this was Elder Gee, I said, how do you know Delia? Well, her granddaughter's living in our ward. Levon was living in the Stockton ward there. Now, Levon had been born to Juanita and this John Boyle, and John was Catholic and Juanita was Mormon. So they decided they'd let Levon decide for herself what religion to join. And during this divorce record, lo and behold, she was sent to St. George to live with her grandmother, with Johanna. Actually, it would be her great-grandmother. And she told me in Stockton in her apartment, she says, I knew that my grandmother wanted me to be a Mormon. And so it's through the influence of her great-grandmother that she was baptized a Mormon. Well, she became inactive. She married a man that got her to drinking. Now, drinking is something that Nixons and the descendants of William Abraham should never do because it's in their genes and there's a propensity to being an alcoholic. And I have found quite a few alcoholics in the family that I've pursued. And anyway, Levon became an alcoholic, and when she divorced her husband, in the divorce record, it was indicated that the one son that they had to be put in a military academy. I'd never heard of this before. So she really did not have the jurisdiction over her son after the divorced, per se. And so he was living down in the Fresno area, and when we came home from our mission, what she was doing in the ward, her health wasn't good, and what she was doing in the mission was she took on the responsibility of finding dinners for all of our missionaries. So we became quite close. When we would go to Stockton, we'd go see Levon. And after we came home from our mission, we got word in November that she passed away. It was either October or November of '99. So we went back to her funeral, and I spoke at her funeral, and then I went to the apartment, and all of the family material, the histories and pictures and things I brought home with me. And a lot of them were original pictures of Johanna and Delia. So that's an example of the Spirit whispering to you. And like I say, Richard really did not want to go to Sacramento. But Sacramento was where my people, my father was born in the Sacramento Valley, and I had quite a few living relatives in that area, and was able to accomplish a great deal in family history during our mission, our 3-year mission. I was contacted a cousin of mine, and she had information that was my great-grandfather's that was supposed to have been dumped down a well. That's what I was told 50 years ago. And then I found out that it wasn't dumped down the well, that it was right there in the possession of Jane. So the Lord moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. And that's an example of when we were called to the California Sacramento Mission, why we found Levon.